The young girl was a believer. Her doll's arm had broken off. Turning to her skeptical friend, she insisted that she would pray to God, and by the next morning, the arm would be miraculously restored. No miracle occurred. The arm remained broken. "See," scoffed the skeptic, "I told you there was no God. I told you God would not listen." "No," replied the believer, "God did listen," but his answer was no. Our Sedra this morning, D'varim, concludes with God telling Moshe that Joshua would lead the Jews into Israel. It sets the stage for next week's reading, where Moshe requests of God that he be permitted to enter Eretz Yisrael. God listens, but says no. Doesn't this seem unfair to the greatest prophet that the Jewish people have ever known? After carrying the burden of leadership for many years at God's behest, why doesn't God allow Moshe to enter Eretz Yisrael? The general response that Moshe hit the rock instead of speaking to it to bring forth water doesn't to be reason enough. It seems to me the punishment doesn't fit the crime. But here are a few rabbinic insights into this matter. In one midrash, a desperate Moshe tells God that being the prophet of prophets, he deserves to live forever. God says to Moshe, "You're human, and all people die." "Perhaps," says Moshe, "but I'm better than all others." "Are you better than Adam, fashioned in my own hands? Even he died." "Yes," said Moshe, "Adam disobeyed you. He ate from the tree." "And what of Noah?" "I'm still better," said Moshe. When told of the flood, Noah didn't intercede on behalf of his generation. "And what of Abraham?" "Abraham," replied Moshe, "had an evil son. But you killed an Egyptian, the one who was smiting a Jew." "I killed one Egyptian," retorted Moshe. "Look how many you've killed." God concludes the conversation very simply and poignantly. "Moshe, I give life, I can take life." In seeking to live forever, Moshe had to be reminded he was mortal. Only God is eternal. Human beings, even the greatest human beings, including Moshe himself, have to die. This also serves to make another point to the people of the Exodus. The Jews who followed Moshe out of Egypt often confused their leader with God. Immediately prior to his death, Moshe tells the Jewish people, "Now, on the day that I'm dying, you'll clearly know that I am not God. The miracles that have occurred are not mine, but God's." God denies Moshe entry into the promised land to teach a profound idea. Moshe, the prophet of prophets, in all his greatness, was still only human, not a deity. He is born, he lives, he dies. It's the human condition. A second midrash states, while in Egypt, Yosef described himself as a Jew. He merited burial in Israel. Moshe was described as an Egyptian, and he didn't protest that distinction, and therefore was not buried in Eretz Yisrael. The late Rav Tzvi Yehuda Kook asked, why should Moshe be punished for not disputing? Unlike Yosef, who was born in Israel, Moshe was born in Egypt. Rav Kook, who was a mystic, suggests that a Jew's connection to Israel is such that no matter where a Jew is, he or she is in Israel. This esoteric idea may be the basis of the Israeli law that grants immediate citizenship to any Jew who comes to Israel and wants to become a citizen. It is called Chok Hashvut, the law of return. A Jew who comes to Israel, even for the first time, is returning. In a mystical way, every Jew has always been there. A third thought is from the Zohar, which stresses the spiritual growth of Noah to Abraham to Moshe and beyond. Noah remained silent when told by God that the world would be destroyed. Abraham engaged God in debate when hearing that the city of Sodom would be devastated. Moshe not only interceded on behalf of Israel when God told him that the Jews would be consumed for the building the golden calf, but adds, and if you destroy them, eradicate my name from the Torah. The message is clear. Abraham did what Noah couldn't do, and Moshe reaches an even higher level than Abraham. But even Moshe couldn't realize all of his dreams. He doesn't enter the promised land. This is left for Joshua and future generations. Maybe that's the lesson. We're here to make inroads, to pave the way for future generations. Rabbi Tarfon quotes Pirkei Avot when he says, "It is not for you to complete the task, but neither are you to refrain from it. We are all part of Jewish history. The most crucial lesson of our history is that we are all part of a process. The progress toward a goal can often be more important than achieving the goal. Movement more important than destination. The quest for redemption more important than redemption itself." My friends, this Saturday evening we will observe the fast of Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of Av, the saddest day in the history of the Jewish people. On the same day, on the Jewish calendar, throughout history, many tragedies befell our people, including the destruction of the first and second temples. Jews were expelled from England in 1290. Pope Urban II declared the First Crusade, which killed tens of thousands of Jews. The Jews of Spain were expelled in 1492. World War I started on Tisha B'Av in 1914. The deportation of Jews from the Warsaw Ghetto occurred during the Second World War. Tisha B'Av is a fast day which culminates a 3-week mourning period by the Jewish people. It is a time for introspection, making a spiritual accounting and correcting the errors of our ways. In Hebrew, this is called teshuvah. Teshuvah, which literally means return, but is often translated as repentance, requires us to recognize what we have done wrong, stop performing the transgression, and correct any damage, accept upon ourselves never to do it again, and finally asking God for forgiveness. A Rebbe once turned to his disciples and asked, "There is a ladder with 50 steps. One student was on the 25th step, another on the 10th. Who was higher?" The students asked each other, "Has the Rebbe gone mad?" And they agreed the one on the 25th was the highest. The Rebbe answered, "No, my children, it depends on which way you're going." Next week is Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat of comfort, the Shabbat which begins the 7 weeks of consolation leading to Rosh Hashanah, of climbing the ladder of process. The key is to evaluate which direction we are moving, stop, reflect, changing ourselves, and only then will we be able to make a better world. I wish you well in all of your journeys. Rabbi Starr, Rabbi Dallin, Chazan Propus, and I are all here to support you along the way. Shabbat Shalom.